What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here doing a technical analysis on ticker symbol ZS for Zscaler Inc. On the left-hand side, we're looking at the daily time frame, and on the right-hand side, the 30-minute intraday time frame. Of course, I do need to make you aware of an earnings announcement they released after the bell, but let me just scrunch this chart up. This is a thing of beauty. I mean, look at this trend here, so clean and strong to the upside, just about putting on actually doubling here, almost a double anyways, right, from 150 to about 300 over the course of just a couple months. So beautiful chart in terms of strength of the uptrend, but now let's talk more about that earnings number. So flipping on the extended hour session just to see what's going on here. And for the sake of today's video, we'll assume that we're opening on a gap up, right? So a little bit of choppy action here, a big doji on the actual release of the number, but currently trading above the prior day's high. So for the sake of today's video, we'll assume that the opens here right around 287, we'll call it for round number's sake, and that the overnight high will remain up here close to 290, again for round number's sake. Keep in mind, a lot can happen between now and 9:30, but these levels are going to give us a framework which we can use regardless of what they actually end up being by the time the bell actually rings. So the first thing we have to consider whenever we're dealing with a gap up is the fact that we could get a gap and trap, meaning that we make a move to fill the gap underneath us to the high of today's session, which is right here around $284.19. So how that might unfold would be opening here, failing to take out the overnight high, trading back down through the open. That's your short signal to essentially take us lower to fill the gap to that 284.20 target. And quickly going over to the trade tab, you can see that this is actually an easy to borrow stock, and the option contracts, not the best volume over here, but I would imagine if that play does start to pick up and present itself, volume will flush in, at the bell tomorrow morning. So keep an eye on the put volume. Would probably just opt to go with short shares if that is your prerogative of playing downside here. Now, the flip side of this coin, of course, and the one I'm sure a lot of people are rooting for, is of course the gap and go. So if we open here, consolidate in this range, put in any type of bullish pattern, this just so happens to be a bull flag, right? You're looking for the break of the pre-market high to take us higher into the next major area of resistance from the daily perspective. And just looking at the daily, this here, the all-time high, is kind of all we have overhead. And even looking at this massive red candle, that structure is relatively poor, so I'm not really expecting any hangups in there either. So a break up and over the overnight high on the earnings gap and go could really set this thing in motion up and over that 293.44. I would argue the main numbers to be paying attention to after that are 295, just because it's a round psychological number, but more importantly 300, which again is a nice round psychological number. And just looking at the range of ZS, it seems logical that it could put in that type of range here from the daily perspective. Let's also cover one more downside target in case the gap does fill to the downside, or again, a lot can happen between now and 9:30. What would be the next downside target to really pay attention to? I would argue it's simply right here at 278.76, coming from prior resistance, then offering support on this little pullback, and that'll lead me to my last sort of thing here, which is of course looking at this entire move through the lens of Fibonacci, the most recent one anyways, and that will leave us with something like that. So the next major area to watch out for if that does break would be here at the 38.2, right around 272. We'll just throw a regular level on that and then call it a day here inside of ZS. But again, it's all really going to boil down to what happens at 9:30 with either the gap and trap or the gap and go. But you have my thoughts, you have that sort of parameter and how you can play this with the levels accordingly. So if you enjoyed the video or learned anything new, certainly let me know down below in the comments section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget our main channel is linked in the description, and all of that being said, I wish you a green trading week.